Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Everyday Excellence. I'm your host, Todd Baldwin, and today we have Jeremiah Wallace, owner of Wallace Construction. Jeremiah, how you doing?
So far, so amazing.
Awesome. It's Tuesday afternoon. We were just chatting and excited to have you on the show. One of the things when we did our prep call that kind of jumped out at me, right, is when I asked you, and what your answer was, I asked you what made you get into business? And you said, because I'm insane, which honestly, might be one of the most honest entrepreneurial answers I've had. So to get us started, tell everyone a little bit about Wallace Construction, what you do, who you serve, and what kind of projects you're focused on.
Yeah, so been open for about 2 years. It kind of took a little bit of a journey to get here. Worked for quite a few different contractors. This was after a stint in teaching martial arts, which was my first business venture. When the pandemic happened, I started getting into in-home sales with a couple of local contractors here in Washington State. Learned a lot during the time, but I just had a hard time, I guess, working for somebody else. I didn't, our values didn't align all the way. So 2 years ago, I did the craziest decision of my life and just decided to start my own company. It's been a passion. What I mean by that is passion isn't present without love and some hatred. There's things that I dislike about it, and there's things that I really enjoy about it.
Sure.
But the sole purpose of opening the company is I wanted to serve the homeowners that I meet and help them with what they need or where they're at. The prior companies that I worked for, it was either full replacement or nothing. Since I focus on repairs, maintenance, and full replacement, I feel that I'm able to be transparent, honest with the customers, and that builds long-term relationships that I am extremely grateful for.
Okay. Well, congrats on taking the leap of faith and starting your entrepreneurial journey. Talked to so many people over the last 20 plus years that want to have their own business, but when it's time to jump off that cliff, as I like to say, it's scary, and there's a lot of things that can stop someone from pursuing that dream. So congrats on taking a big gamble and betting on yourself. So, all right. So you're when we say construction, you roofing, siding, windows, and decks. So you're exterior, correct, for the home,
Correct.
and mostly residential.
Yep.
Okay.
Mostly residential, starting to get into some commercial spaces though.
Okay. You're up in the Seattle, Washington area. So what all areas do you serve up there?
Basically, greater Seattle, Mount Vernon, Washington, all the way to like North Seattle. So the
Okay.
shoreline area. And there's a lake here. It's called Lake Washington.
Yep.
And I pretty much service right from Lake Washington and north all the way to Mount Vernon.
Okay. Pretty big territory. It's a lot of real estate up there to cover.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful area too. I've been up to Seattle a handful of times, and man, it's gorgeous up there. I've always been around Labor Day weekend, and it's never rained when I've been in Seattle, but the weather's always sun's always out shining, and I'm like, hey, people say it rains here all the time, but maybe I got lucky. I don't know.
It is. We deal with a lot of rain throughout the year for the beautiful summers. Right now it's 80 degrees, beautiful. Projects are cooking. It's this is like the prime time for construction here.
Sure. Oh no, yeah, absolutely. So let's rewind the clock a little bit because when we were talking earlier, you mentioned you've been around construction for about 19 years or so, right? Starting with your dad, you said who was a framer. You joked to me that you're basically cheap labor for him, crawling through attics and getting on roofs and learning the work from the ground up. So, what did growing up around construction teach you before you ever thought about owning a company?
Uh, I would say the key things that it taught me was hard work, showing up, being on time, uh,
All important.
all very, very important things. And as much as, now like networking is important, but if you want something done, you got to strap on your boots and get to work. right? Like now I have people that I trust and I can rely on to do a lot of the projects that I get, but sometimes I still need to show up and get to work when things need to get done. And I would say that that helps lead the team and that helps lead some of, the crews to move through a project when I show up and I'm like, okay, we need to get this done. Here we have weather windows, especially for roofing. So
Sure.
if we rip off a roof and oh, it's 2 layers, but we have 4 hours that we need to get it all dried in. So we're protecting the homeowner's house, their asset from the weather coming in. It's like, okay, I need to go throw my bags on and I need to get to work.
Sure.
I would say that's a key piece, you know, not being afraid to get my hands dirty. And I think that that translates well into business as well. I can't expect anybody to do, I can't ask somebody to do something that I'm unwilling to do myself. I would say that was a key thing that I watched my dad do, my uncle, who also owned his own company. They were always kind of leading from the front.
Sure. It's big with the team too, right? Because they see you out on the front lines as well,
Yeah.
or, you know, willing at any time to jump in and like you say, go to work, right? So I like that. Um, I do a lot of that in our company as well too, you know? So if I got to dive in to sales or customer relationships or whatever it may be, I'm always willing to help out the team any way I can. So like that a lot. You mentioned martial arts, right? And that that you taught martial arts for about 10 years professionally. How did that chapter in your life shape who you are as a business owner?
Uh, it is the pinnacle to being a business owner.
Yeah.
Uh, so I guess rewinding the tape a little bit, when I was 19, I was addicted to drugs and I decided to get sober. And
Awesome.
one of the tools that I used was martial arts. I did martial arts through high school. It was always a passion of mine. And uh, when I was 19, I dove headfirst into martial arts, started having some success with that at tournaments and various things. And they selected me to attend a trade school within the organization where I learned business practices, people skills, like high quality martial arts instruction, how to teach men, women, children of all ages. And during that time, to supplement my income, the main goal was teaching martial arts. That's really what I wanted to do. I dropped out of college to do it. I was all in. This is what I'm going to do.
Sure.
But to supplement the income, I was doing construction for probably 8 years while I was doing that until I partnered with the company in 2017 and I had my own school in Kirkland, Washington. And then that was what I pictured myself always doing. Like that was what I was going to do. I was really successful at it. I had one of the most profitable schools in the Northwest. It was an amazing adventure. And the people who taught me all those things from the people skills, how to monitor P&Ls, having employees, leading them, all those skills, that's what I drove into construction. And I guess to cap it off, 2020 happened, COVID. It was a really challenging time for martial arts schools. That is when I made the switch back into construction. But at this time, with a different approach, instead of being a laborer, I jumped more into the sales/estimating side and did that for 4 years until I started this company. But when I designed this company and I think of, okay, how can I have a successful company? I look at the same success that I had in teaching martial arts. Very structured, very disciplined, system orientated, um, even to the simplest things of be on time. Like in the contracting world, that's kind of uh, a gray area for some contractors. Oh, we could be 15 minutes late, not communicate with the homeowners. Those are all the things that I'm trying to do different. So from scheduling an appointment the day before, calling and making sure that they understand what I'm there to do, to once they sign the agreement, they make their deposit, site review or critical measure. and then just keeping the communication with them the entire way. So even if their project is scheduled 4 weeks out, I still try to touch it at least once a week. Just let them know, see how they're doing, making sure they know I haven't forgot about them. And then while the project's going on, daily job site communications, pictures, drone photos of the roof. Look at your roof now, and trying to do things a little bit different in a competitive environment, which I'm competitive, obviously for martial arts. So that all rolls over into what I'm doing now. I I still look at myself as a martial arts instructor.
Do you? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was your first business then, where
Yep.
you had your own studio, your own store, location, school, I should say, in Kirkwood. So, all right. One of the things we talked about too was the sales part of it, right? And you had mentioned that you're not a born or you were not a born salesman, right? And that you learned through failure. So I think that started in the martial arts. So what did that teach you, right? About talking to people and earning trust when you were in the martial arts field?
Yeah. Well, it kind of all stems from, there's a lot of proverbs, whether it's Japanese, Chinese, that people will bring up. And one of them that has always stuck with me is fall down 7 times, get up eight. Like I have this
I like
thing
that.
inside me. I refuse to quit. I just, my wife says it's this sick obsession that I have where I just refuse to give up. And I think that helps a lot. But when it comes to, sorry, what was the original question?
Well, I'm just curious because we're kind of I wanted to transition to the sales part in your business of how you guys really got the roofing side off the ground. But you said you learned this really in the martial arts side, that you're not a born salesman, and that
Yes, that's what it was. Thank you.
yeah, yeah, and that
So yeah, that not quit mentality. So that is what I have at my core. I was never like a great salesman. I was never good at talking to people. I've always been more introverted than I have been extroverted. But I remember my first day, I took the test. I was a certified martial arts instructor. They give you this fancy red belt that you tie around your waist. And I thought in my mind, I was like, man, I'm kind of a badass and I'm popping my gi, ready to get to work. And I asked my instructor, I go, hey, when are the students going to show up here? He goes, well, if you want to teach, you have to sign them up as a student. And I was like, okay, how do I do that? And this was at the time during my undergraduate, if you want to call it that. I was in Bellevue, Washington, pretty high traffic area. And he would have me stand out front of the school on Bellevue Way as people were walking back and forth, going to the mall or the various shops out there, waving at cars, trying to start conversations with people. And it went horrible for, I would say, 6 months. And then I started to get some traction. I started to say things that would get people to stop. I started working on timing as well of when I say things as they're walking by. And then things started to click where I started to understand more of the psychology just through continuing to try, continuing never to give up. And eventually I, with the help of my instructor, created this system where I would hold pads, like the pads that people punch, and I would stand out front. And before they had a chance to pass me, I'd be like, all right, let me get some. And they would punch it. I'd say, ooh, that was really bad. Could I show you something real quick? And then I'd show them a couple things on how to turn the hand over and hit the pad. And once it was making that good sound, I'd say, wow, you're really good at this. You're a quick learner. I'd say, here, come here. I have something to give you. And I'll just turn around and walk into the building and set them up with an appointment.
I
And
like that.
that was the first, like, oh, it's not that you were born with this, it's a skill set that you develop.
Right.
And through that, I've been able to develop, I think, a pretty broad skill set in sales. It's not something that I'm naturally gifted at. I'm just able to find ways to talk to people and found that way to kind of connect, lead people, not try to force feed or sell them something that they don't need, but just ask a lot of questions, gather the information, and present something that is suitable for their needs.
Yeah, no, I like that. I like because that transitions into when you started the roofing business or Wallace Construction, right? You didn't sit around and just wait for the phone to ring. You actually went out and knocked on doors. right? And just introduce yourself to the community and build business. What I say, really, that's a grassroots, hard way, just knocking on residential homes, right? So, what that teach you about the business and that maybe you couldn't learn any other way, really? I mean, just knocking on doors to try to get this thing off the ground.
And if it wasn't for my experience standing out on that busy street being awkward, I don't think I would have ever had the courage to do that.
Yeah, great lesson, man. I mean, to be able to sell that way and just that 100% cold call effort, right? It's tough. And kudos for not being to hang in there, right? And just keep um introduce yourself, talking to people. It's like, I guess I keep thinking about my son. I told you this on our prep call. He's selling pest control service door to door in Washington D.C. Right? We live in South Lake, Texas. Um, and I told him the other day. He said, "Man, it's been a rough week. I've only got one sale. This was Friday." And I said, "Buddy, man, you're knocking every day. You're winning, right? You're winning. You are having success. The sales will come." And he got a sell on Saturday. They're off on Sunday, and yesterday he had 4 sales. So I think I'm gonna send him some of these clips because it's about skill set, learning your craft, right? And not getting just not giving up, right? I love that you got creative and had people punching a bag, and what a great way to create interest, right? On the fly. So what was that first year like knocking on doors? You're trying to get business and then now you got to go do the job. What was that? Were you too scared to know any different or just so focused on sales? I mean, how'd you get through it? First.
Yeah, well, a lot of it, I read a lot, I listen to a lot of podcasts, I consume a lot of information. And I would say the biggest factor to a lot of it is Ed Milet. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he's kind of like a self-help kind of guy. He's written a couple books, but he wrote this book, One More. But he also talks about like stacking wins, right? So in a sales environment, it's easy to, go door to door or be told no 90% of the time. Uh, but what that does to your self-confidence is a struggle. So we need to have things that we win at outside of being told no. So for me, a lot of it is physical fitness, taking good care of myself. That is what I lead with. I start every day with that. All great sales trainers talk about physical fitness being the pinnacle of their success. Um, and so that's like the main thing, but like the overall mindset going into the $0. My second daughter was just born. I started this business and I had no capital to work off of. I was working out of my house. Really, it was okay. I need to get documents signed. I need to get deposits made, and I need to make sure that I fight for getting this job done correctly.
Sure.
So for me, it was just about getting the jobs necessary to start building what I want to do, which is a legacy. And so knocking on doors kind of came easy at that point in my life because I had other things to fall back on, things to channel my success. And so when somebody told me, get the F off my property, it was just continue moving and go to the next one.
Go to the next one. Did knocking on the door help you understand the homeowner any better?
What do you mean by that?
Well, it is kind of a broad question. I guess just by you're knocking on doors, you're face to face with that homeowner. That help you understand their needs better, or how you could actually serve them better, or was it just a matter of, hey, I'm just here to, I'm trying to make a sell and sell you a new roof or windows or whatever it may be. I guess wondering if that interaction, right? Because you're not calling, you're face to face, so you're talking to homeowners. I'm assuming gathering, information about their needs and so forth, and just wondering if that repetition helped you make more sales or just
Yeah,
get
it did. I would
how
I would
much
say
better.
that as long as I approached it with empathy, meaning when I knock on somebody's door, I know that I can't serve everybody, but there is a kind of similarity between all homeowners. They all care about their home, but they're concerned about the financial side of it. And so what I started doing is I started knocking on doors and I started taking like a very human approach, which is I knock on the door, I step way back off the deck. And when they come to the door, I almost sound like I don't have a lot of confidence because I want to connect to them on that level. I want to be different than the other people that are coming door to door. But through that experience, I did hear that a lot of fear, people, worried that maybe I'm trying to rip them off. And then once I broke down that barrier, it came to like, oh, I can't afford it. And the easiest way to get over that is, how do you know you can't afford it? Have you received an estimate on it before? Or are you basing this off of like what you think it's going to be? Or is this like an actual thing that you considered and you're able to consult them a little bit and hopefully break down their barriers?
So today, how much of your new lead is still through door knocking, or do you have other channels now that have replaced that lead channel?
Yeah. So fortunately, I haven't had a door knock for the last 3 months, which is nice.
Yeah,
So a lot of the channels now that I have capital to do other things, Google, uh, I'm up on Google getting great 5-star reviews, running ads through Google. And then I have Facebook, I have Instagram, trying to create, media to be able to post to that. So it all links back to Google. And then over the last month and a half now, I've been doing meta advertisement. And that has been great. I've been getting a couple leads a week just from that, and it's kept me pretty busy. And yeah, looking at hiring some people so that frees up some of my time so I could focus more on the marketing side and continue to grow the company.
sure. I think you said for Meta you were focusing on decks. Is that right? The deck side of the business?
Correct. Yeah, decks and siding is what Meta's really driving. Google is more for roofing. Because I still want to be in that space. Roofing here is extremely competitive. There's about 4,500 roofers in the greater Seattle area.
4,500.
So
That's a lot
45,
of roofers.
yeah. Uh, and some of those guys, they're spending, $10,000 a month on Google advertisement. So,
Sure.
until you have the capital to play in that realm, you're kind of grassroots, knocking on doors, referrals. Once somebody uses you, hopefully you serve them well so they tell all their friends and family about you. And yeah, it continues to grow.
Sure. Is there a part of the business, are one of the services you like better than the other, meaning roofing, siding, windows, deck, or is it they're all about the same? I mean, if you had to pick one of those, is there one, hey, I really want to do more of these, or is it all about equal as far as, hey, any lead in those four spaces I'm happy with?
Yeah, I would say siding, but I'm torn. So the reason I'm torn, so siding is cool because you really get to change the appearance of the house. You get to visibly see it when you drive up to the house, which is awesome. Roofing is not an attractive purchase, so nobody's excited like, "Yay, we get to do a roof." So I would say I lean more towards siding because of that aspect. But
Okay.
then you have the business side of it. So siding projects sometimes can take, 2, 3 weeks to complete when a roof takes 2, 3 days to complete. So roofing can happen quite a bit faster in a shorter amount of time. So I'm torn between the 2 of those.
Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit about culture. I know your company's still fairly new. You're a couple of years in, but what kind of culture are you trying to build at Wallace Construction as it grows?
Yeah, so really the core values of honesty, integrity, and discipline. That's what I want to embody the culture. And it's not that, you know, I'll be the owner and I'll have employees under me and I have them stand up and salute me every day. That's not what I'm looking for.
Yeah. They usually doesn't
Really,
work very well anyway. So,
yeah, I want it to be a mutual respect
sure.
between everybody that's here and that we all show up, we do our best, and we go home and we hang out with our families. I want this to be a place where people can come, have financial success. So when they do that, they're taking better care of the company, but then also they have that balance so they can go home and have dinner with their family every night. Like, I don't want them to bring work home with them. And I think that comes through a disciplined system, through the process, through the customer experience, through production, through sales, marketing. Having a system to all of that, I believe, is what will help limit the thoughts after work. When somebody's in a certain step of the system, you know where they're at and you can come back to it the next day. But when everything's all over, that's when you'll go home. Oh, I forgot to send off that material order, or I forgot to call Janet at her house and let her know where her roof is at. It's like there's a structured system that I created. So when somebody comes in, they can just follow that and it will kind of take care of itself.
I like, I like that. I like that you mentioned family and you want your people to be able to go home and enjoy their evenings, right? With their family, not be, I guess, stressed out or worried about what's going on up at work. I can resonate a lot with that. I'm real big on paid time off. We have a lot of PTO. Encourage everybody to use it, and because I don't carry it over, so I'm like, hey, use it and go spend time with your family. And um, I've never turned down or declined anybody requesting time off, even if they've used all their time off. It's really, in a real sense, we kind of have unlimited. I just don't like to use unlimited, but as long as someone's not abusing it, I mean, we're pretty flexible. Now, if someone's with us in the first year, am I going to give them, 3 weeks pay time off? Probably not. But um, point is, I'm real big on just people having time to be with their family. So I love that you are incorporating that into your business as well. I'm curious, what or how do you want homeowners to feel after working with Wallace Construction?
It's a really good question. I want them to feel like they're taken care of. You ask every single person, hey, have you ever experienced, a contractor before? Or have you ever had a project done around your house? And when you ask questions about that, it typically doesn't lead to much positive. I want the experience to be positive when somebody decides to use me. And I guess how I do that is from the first initial meeting, I don't talk to homeowners like they know what I'm talking about. I make sure and explain everything so they know what it looks like to get the roof replaced. For example, I'm working with this lady in Mount Vernon right now, massive roof. She's having a lot of issues around the perimeter of her house. And she's like, I don't know why this is happening. My roof's only 19 years old. And just sitting down with her and explaining to her that, like, hey, they make certain type of flashing that you can install at the eaves that will help the water actually drain into the gutters versus candy cane around back into the plywood. She was like, "Oh, that's a thing." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's a thing." But builders typically don't take that step because they're looking for bottom dollar, get the roof on, make sure it meets code. And as long as it's good for 2 years, they're happy they can move on to the next job. So taking the time and actually explaining that to her, she's like just grateful. And I told her, I was like, hey, look, regardless if you use me or if you use somebody else, we're friends either way. I've fulfilled my mission by giving you the information you need to make an educated decision.
Yeah, I was thinking about a podcast I did recently. Actually, he was a roofer too, Mighty Dog Roofing. It's a franchise model. He's up on the East Coast. But his big deal is the first to educate wins. And as you're talking about that real story of educating that homeowner, that kept going through my mind. And I think it's a powerful statement, right? The first to educate wins. So you're educating her. Have you closed her or
I'm going to know by this Friday.
yeah? So just taking the time to educate and walk them through what it is that you're doing or why can be really, really valuable. I had a client, a new lead we were working. We did not close it, but he did tell me, because he said, "Hey, if you're gonna tell me I need to build a new website, I don't wanna build a new website." And I said, "Well, I'm gonna tell you, really encourage you to build a new site and, get out of WordPress and over to what we're building our sites in now, Astro and Cloud Cannon for AI." But Anyway, after I explained to him and did a little bit of education, he did tell me, he said, "Hey, you know what? At least you're the only guy that's actually told me why I need to build it. Everybody else just tells me, 'Hey, you need a new website.'" So, kind of made me think of that scenario too on our side of the house, being a digital marketer.
I
Um,
think that is so valuable
yeah.
to the human experience, right? Everybody, regardless of where they're at, they wanna know why they should do something. But there's a lot of businesses that they just kinda give a price, and they don't explain what's going into that price. For roofing, do they need sheeting? Are we recommending gutters? Do we provide pictures showing that their sheeting is bad? Did we get in the attic space? And being
Yeah, you mentioned price. It reminds me when we were talking as well. You said, you can go do a quote I'll say a new roof, and you may be the cheapest for this one, and then you go to the next one, and now you're double what someone else's price. So you've gone from the cheapest, now you're double. That's gotta be frustrating, right? So how do you handle that with homeowners who are comparing you only on price, right?
uh, well, I would say the biggest thing is knowing my customer, knowing my audience. When I meet with somebody, are they looking for the lowest overall price? Or are they looking for a valuable solution to their issues? Right? Because all roofs look the same when they're installed, right? What I tell people is it's more important what goes underneath the shingles and how it's vented than the shingles itself. And so there's just kind of knowing your audience. Sometimes people, they don't care what I'm installing. Maybe they're trying to sell their house, do the roof as cheap as possible. We're probably not a good fit. But then there's people that uh, they plan on staying in the house long term, and they want to make sure that they don't have to worry about the roof. Then I end up being a really good fit for those people. But yeah, it's like playing the lottery. Anytime I give a quote, it's like I know I provide value. I know they can see that. I know they can sense that, I'm genuine. I'm not trying to rip them off. But it's never surprising. I'll call one person and, well, this is actually an interesting story. Given a quote for some siding. So met this gentleman over here in Lake Stevens and gave him a quote for his siding. It was about $50,000 for all new Color Plus siding and through James Hardy. Beautiful, beautiful project. He had a quote for it was like 70,000 and then another quote for almost 80,000. And he referred his neighbor and his neighbor calls me and says, "Hey, I'd like to have you come out and give me a quote for my siding." And so I go out there, I meet with him, great connection, awesome experience. His house was similar in size, $50,000 estimate, just as I suspected when I first met with him. He goes and gets other estimates. One was 25,000 and then the other was 35,000. And I mean, I didn't see any of the quotes, but he said it was all like for like materials, and
Sure.
that's wild. Yeah. So yeah, that was a fun experience
Did
to talk with him.
you end up getting the job or no?
No, so through conversation, he went with the middle one. It's typical of homeowners. And I even cracked a joke with him. I was like, "Hey, no worries. It's like playing the lottery for me. I never know if I'm going to be the lowest or if I'm going to be the highest."
Yeah. It's a we do a lot of that in our industry and being a digital marketing agency. I tell people a lot of times, hey, we're definitely not the most expensive but we're definitely not the cheapest either. But I've heard crazy pricing in our industry and then I've heard really crazy high pricing and really crazy low pricing. So I do think the old saying you get what you pay for is has a lot of truth, I think, in your business, in our business as well. Um, let's talk a little bit about growth. And you are on pace to double your revenue in year two versus year one. What do you think's driving that growth right now?
I'd say reputation is a big thing.
Yeah,
Definitely the reputation, the Google reviews. I'm at almost 55-star Google reviews. I try to get one of those from each customer that I work with.
sure. Good job asking. That's the main thing. You got to ask.
Yeah. Um, and then just overall, I would say system. So when I first got into this, I didn't know kind of how things would go. I mean, I kind of understood, it's a linear process from when they sign, make their deposit, critical measure, job being done, time frame of it getting done, cleanup, magnetic sweep, all of that and cash
Sure.
flow during that time. So I had like a general understanding of it, but I didn't have like a concrete system. And now I have a good enough system where I'm able to compartmentalize jobs versus stretch them out. Right. So I'm able to get them in closer into the schedule. I've gotten way better at scheduling. And then help, I would say, is another big one. So, bookkeeper, strongly encourage that for anybody in the construction world. Pay the money, have the bookkeeper do all that stuff because I'll sit in front of my computer for multiple hours trying to figure out how to categorize this stuff through QuickBooks.
Sure.
Pay somebody to do that. Marketing, same thing. Yeah, have a company that does that for me. And then that frees up my time to do what's important for their growth. When I first started, I was doing all that stuff myself.
What has been your biggest lessons from year 1 to year 2?
Biggest lessons from year one to year two, I would say the one that's like just coming to my mind is like, I can't do this alone. I, I, I mean, $1 million I could easily do by myself on my own. I see that as a realistic possibility, but that is the cap of my growth. When I started trusting people and letting them in and look at hiring people, that's when I think it freed up my bandwidth to really start to progress. And if I could have done it earlier, I would have.
How big's your team now?
Right now, it's me, and then I'm hiring a guy for project assistant to work into a project management role as the company grows. And then I have crews that I work with, but a lot of my crews, I'm supplying 98% of their business. So they have their own business. It's subcontracting.
Okay. We've had a lot of success using subcontractors too. So I like that method, especially if you can just find the right ones, right? That you can trust and do great work and save a little money because they're contractors versus on the payroll. Um, what excites you most about your business the next 12 to 24 months?
Uh, what excites me most is the ability to help people. That's really what it comes down to. A lot of people say that. My last boss said that, and I questioned if that was reality. But I wanted to start this company with the idea of helping people in helping them realize their personal best,
Right.
meaning through, coaching, leadership, helping them step outside of their comfort zone and finding success outside of what they're comfortable doing. That's what I'm excited about. And whether that's, a customer or that's an employee that I have, helping them just be the best version of themselves that they could be. That's what I'm excited about. And the bigger I get, the more opportunity I have to really have that passion come to fruition as the company grows.
Yeah, I'm a big believer too. If you're helping people and it's really sincere, right, and you're just really trying to help and do things for others, it's amazing how that'll come back around to you in lots of ways. But yet, all you were trying to do from a real, I guess, pure perspective is just help somebody. So, um, I think you had mentioned before you started the company and you were doing inside sales. Was it a remodeling business that you just felt like you were dealing with some I don't want to say unethical, but just things that were bothering you, I guess, that are really important to your core values. I think you mentioned, you shouldn't have to lie to somebody during their business. Did that experience really shape, um, how Wallace Construction has been started from day one?
Absolutely, it did. Yeah. So I didn't want to open my own company for the longest time, and when I first stopped teaching martial arts, I joined a company. I was with them for 2 years. Great company. Looking back on it, I kind of maybe left prematurely. but I wanted something new. I wanted something challenging, and went to another company, and they were newer, so I felt more passionate about it because I could help them grow, and that's kind of what opened my idea to opening my own company. But while I was at the company, the owner of the company had this great spiel of, serving the customer, doing the right thing, but that came with a price tag. That is where I really had a hard time with it. When I first started with the company, realistic pricing, it made sense. I mean, and the owner started, taking trips to Spain, to Africa, and then texting in saying, "Why are sales down?" and trying to do Skype calls while he's in Africa, asking why sales numbers are lower.
Right.
But, a few months before that, he doubled his pricing and said, "We're losing money on jobs," which is untrue because I helped build the pricing
Right.
for what we were doing. He was trying to captivate at least 70% margins after paying, commissions to the salesman, the crews, everything. It was just,
Wow. 70%.
yeah, it
Yeah.
was,
What percent commission did he pay? I'm just curious.
yeah. So when I left, I was making 12%, but he also told me that I was too expensive for him.
If he's paying 12% commission, that only leaves 18% for all other expenses to hit the 70% margin, if my math is right, right? So that's that's crazy. And then
Yeah. To put it into perspective, I charge $800 a square for roofing,
right.
which that is within this market, that is a good price for the type of roof that I'm installing. He did pretty much the same exact thing for 1,600.
Wow.
Yeah, and my margins are good, 25% in roofing, that's, like, really good
Sure. So he was able to get double that price
because of the sales, man.
because of the sales. And then, but it sounds like, and we don't have to go into details, but there was something there that didn't resonate well with you. So, but hey, like I said, I mean, I think that's what's so cool is that you want to make a shift and do it your way, so to speak, and really, um, I guess, honor the customer. So it sounds like you're up to a great start, right? Doing all these podcasts has been interesting. I like talking to I love talking to someone like you, someone who's been in this journey for 2 years, and I also like to talk to guys who've been cranking for, 10, 15 years, so still a lot of similarities in those calls, believe it or not, right? It's just one has been at it longer and has been able to grow versus someone who's just getting, their feet underneath them and getting everything in place and processes and, now you're in the hiring journey and trying to find people to come in and help you, really implement your vision. Um, I'm curious, um, as of now, what are you most proud of so far with Wallace Construction?
Man, well, when you asked me what I'm most proud of, I immediately thought of my family. I have a beautiful wife, I have 2 beautiful daughters, uh, and, like, I feel more present with them. Yeah, there every night with them now. That is by far what I'm most proud of,
That
and
is so cool. Yeah.
yeah.
We were just talking, my wife and I too, about how blessed we are, right? We got two great kids and one just graduated college, one's finished her freshman year. And but yeah, just we're really all blessed, man. Really lucky to be where we are. And big part of that's just being able to grow the business and use that as a vehicle to really do what we want as a family and put a lot of energy and focus into that. So glad that that's what you're most proud of, because I think it all starts back with the family. Couple of questions as we wrap up. I always like to ask my guests because we've been talking so heavily on the business side. You mentioned you listen to podcasts. What are some podcasts you could recommend to our listeners that you have enjoyed?
Uh, Andy Frisella,
Yep, I hear that one a lot.
yeah, he's, like, the number 1 business podcast out there. He has a different approach to it. I like to listen to Theo Vaughn podcast if I'm in a more of a humorous, type situation, which is, sometimes, Joe Rogan podcast is another one. And then, there's also It really depends on the guest, but then there's also, the Sean Ryan show.
I like those. I'm familiar with Rogan, but what was the last one?
Sean Ryan?
Not familiar with Sean. What's he focus on?
So he's a Navy SEAL, ex-Navy SEAL, CIA operative, and he has some kind of outstretched views, but he has certain guests that are really interesting to listen to. So one recently that I listened to, he had a guy that was, the youngest president in Hell's Angel history.
Wow. Yeah.
So yeah, so, and then, his story later on, like, he found Christ and he changed his life around. But I like to listen to those, type of episodes of somebody, having that kind of past and finding success. Like I mentioned, I've been sober now for 16 years, no drugs, no alcohol, no nothing. Before that, I was really not a good person. Not that I was meant to do that. I just was taught morals and values by immoral people and eventually changed my perspective, quit using drugs and got out of it. So I love listening to podcasts like that because I can connect with them easily and gives me hope for where I'm going. Now that same guy on that show, he's doing great things.
Well, 16 years is to be commended. So great job. I mean, I can't even really comment on that other than that's really cool and that you know, turn your life around. In that aspect, right? So I won't pretend to be an expert or know the right thing to say there, but had a lot of friends and had family in that same boat. And so I know just from observing them how hard that journey can be and challenging. So 16 years being sober is pretty freaking cool, for lack of a better word, Jeremiah. So awesome. Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. It's been crazy because I told you originally, and I'm not a professional podcaster. I've never done this, and we started in January, so I think there's 40 or so now that we have done. But it's been really inspiring to hear people's stories and journeys, and when I hear things like that, it's I don't know, it just moves me in a certain way. I guess as I get older, I'm in my 50s now. I'm a little older than you, Jeremiah. I don't know. You just see the world definitely different, and things move you in a different way. So that's a cool story, man. I've talked to probably 3 or 4 people, um, entrepreneurs that have had that same experience that you mentioned, and that all their stories have been fascinating of how they just wanted to change and they got committed and were able to get to the other side. So I appreciate you sharing that. Um, what about I always like to try to end on this because there's a young Jeremiah out there and he's thinking, man, I'm gonna go start my own business and I want to get in this construction side, whether it be or home service business, whatever it may be. If they came and sat down with you and said, hey, can you give me some advice on how to start my own business? Let's just say in the roofing world, what would you tell them?
If not now, when? What would life need to look like for you to take that leap of faith?
Yeah. Was there one? I mean, could you narrow it down to one thing that made you say, "Hey, now is the time for you"?
Uh, yeah, well, it was always something that was kind of playing in my mind. My wife even had mentioned it to me. She would make comments like, "I don't think you're meant to work for anybody. I think you should work for yourself."
That is,
Um,
I love that your wife was 100% supportive too, because that can be a big issue as well.
yeah, that's amazing. Like, without her support, I wouldn't be where I'm at, and but for years, I wanted to do that, and if anybody can learn anything from my experience, as you get older, your cost of living typically will rise as you have a mortgage, kids, your cost of living goes up. Do it before your cost of living goes up.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing that deters people is they were working for an organization, they start making really good money, they get the lifestyle. It's hard to risk all that or start from ground zero. And so, um and there's never really a good time. You just gotta go for it, right? You gotta go for it. You gotta jump. Take the jump. off the entrepreneurial cliff. And, a lot of times, well, there's been a lot of business failures, but I think a lot more people are going to be successful than they think, right? If they'll just bet on themselves and take that first step. It always seems to be the hardest, but love that your wife supported you and that because you had, was it your first or second child on the way or
Second child was just born
just born? Yeah.
when I fully went into this as like, this is what I'm doing day in, day out. I was no
Right.
longer with the last company. This is what I'm doing.
Well, you say
She was
fully,
born,
but y
took the, 3 months leave from the company. And as soon as that was up, it was like a week into it. I went in and told my boss, hey, thanks for having me, but I'm going on to bigger and better things. And yeah, by that point, I had, the business license and everything set up. And my first day out was 8 hours just knocking on people's doors.
any sales that first day?
Not the first day because it wasn't like a one call close type
Sure.
situation, but I did get my first roof and then I got a small window and door project from that day.
Nice. Wow, that's awesome. Um, what a great story, Jeremiah. Happy for you, man, and excited to see what the next year or two looks like for you. Love to keep in contact with you and just get some check in with you and hear how things are going. Really appreciate you being on the show as well. I've enjoyed. We went a little bit long, but I've been enjoying the conversation. For any of our listeners that are up in your area, up in the greater Seattle area, what's the best way to get in contact with you if they want to reach out and talk about any of your services?
Yeah, so I would say the best way would be through the website, would be the best kind of way, but you can find that through Instagram, Wallace Remodel.
Okay, and what's the URL for the website?
It's wallaceconstruct.com.
WallaceConstruct.com. Awesome. And if any of our listeners want to talk digital marketing, you can always reach me at Everyday Media Group or find me on LinkedIn, Todd Baldwin. Jeremiah, it's been fun, man. I appreciate it. I can't thank you enough for taking the time and jumping on the show. Also, thank you for the reschedule. I know we were going to talk earlier today, but that was a big help. So appreciate it. And I wish you nothing but great success for the rest of the summer in 2026.
Let's go. Yeah, the reschedule worked out fine. It actually worked better for my schedule that happened, but glad to be able to connect, glad to be able to do this. Thanks for the invite. It'd be cool, like maybe in, 3 years when you're still doing this podcast and it's very big, huge platform, that you have me back on and we could see where things are at.
I'd love to do that. It's funny you mentioned it. I was thinking about that this morning, about some guests and things I've really liked. I'm like, I wonder how long do I have to go before I do have them back on? But no, I'd love to have you back on. I'm and serious about keeping connected, and I want to see how your business evolves and grows. But yeah, let's do it in a couple of years. We'll do a check in, see what's where you're at today.
Good. Yeah. I look forward to it.
All right, thank you, Jeremiah.